is here. Hello friends and welcome to my channel. Well, as you can see, I'm super excited today because my block of the month from Stitching Heaven called Make It Merry, it's a Christmas block of the month, has finally arrived. I've seen a lot of people over the weekend say they received it. I think because of the holiday last week, mine just ran a little bit late. Plus it seems like because of where I live, I always get things a day later than everybody else. But that's okay because it's here. I'm super excited. So what I did not know, because this is the first time I've ever done a Stitching Heaven block of the month, is that you get the whole pattern. So we have the whole pattern for the whole program, but this is what the quilt is going to look like. It's going to be beautiful. It finishes at 59 by 59, so you can use it as a wall hanging or a throw quilt for your like couch or something for the holidays. But I'm just really excited to get this started, and I'm going to sew it right here on my channel. If you guys have purchased this and want to sew along, I'd love to have you. And I'm really glad that it's near the end of the month because the beginning of July is going to be a little bit crazy for me. So it's good that the next block won't come until I return because I'm going to be out of town for a bit. So really excited to have this and before I leave so I can get this done. So I'm going to show you everything that came with this. Because some of the things I was expecting and some of them I wasn't. So I want to show you everything and then we'll get to sewing. So the first thing, like I said, is we got the whole entire pattern for every month, which I was surprised because a lot of the block of the months, you get the fabric and the pattern for that month all together. You don't get it ahead of time. Although the fat quarter shot block of the month that I had been working on, I'm still working on, we got the book ahead of time because it's one big book. So I wasn't sure it was going to happen. So now I know with Stitching Heaven that you get the whole pattern ahead of time, which is kind of nice. So you know what to anticipate. A few extra things that they threw in there that I wasn't expecting is these cute gift tags. They're on really heavy cardstock, so we'll have to cut them out, but they're really nice. Like, it's really thick. I don't know if you can tell, but it's really thick, heavy cardstock. So that was a nice little extra. One of the other extras that I thought was really, really cute is that they have the alphabet all in quilt blocks. So that way you can mark your fabrics. So I thought that was cute. So I'll have to cut these apart so I can use them to mark. And then they send us a little sticker of the quilt, which is nice. I know a lot of people out there love stickers. I'm not a huge fan of stickers, but I don't mind having it, especially since I have the quilt. I'll have the quilt to match. And then the other thing that I really, really love that they gave us is this welcome packet. And again, it's on heavy cardstock, which I really like. This talks all about the block of the month, the important things, when it bills, when it ships, all those things, which I think is great. And then inside, and I'm not gonna, it has a picture of the quilt again, but there's some QR codes, and I don't want to flash them here. That way, you know, people that aren't supposed to have them won't get them. But there's a 4 different QR codes, and one is for a private Facebook group for this sew along. So if you are doing this sew along, make sure you join that Facebook group. I already signed up today. You have to be approved, so I'm not approved yet. They have an administrator that has to go and make sure that you actually are doing the block of the month. But that's really cool, so we can all like show our progress and talk about things if anybody has any issues. There's also a QR code for the fabric key, which I thought was really cool. So that way if you do make an oopsie and you need a fabric, and you can go online and find it. There's also another QR code to subscribe to their newsletter, which I already am subscribed to that, so I don't need that one. And then there's a fourth one that is an update your address or billing information. That is really handy. So if you move during this process or you get a new credit card or something like that, I think that's great. So it's right there, makes it really easy for you to find and all that stuff. So keep that. I'm going to put that with my pattern and make sure I keep that. And then on the back, it just talks about their hours, their shop hours, and their customer service hours, which are a little bit different. So that's all the information that came in. Now I'm going to show you the fabrics for month 1. We got this really rich red and this sort of minty aqua. It's pretty. I love that. And then this is probably my favorite one. I love this green with the little sprigs there and the holly berries. And then we have this dark green, which is a polka dot. And you can see they need to be ironed. So, and then we have this lighter green, kind of blender. So really excited to get started. Let me show you guys really quick what the first month's block is going to look like. We're actually going to be making several blocks, I think. The same block, but many of them. And opening up the pattern, this is the first page. And then we have the fabric guide, which if you lose this, that QR code has that, so that's really nice. And then they have some just general instructions, which I thought was really nice. I kind of already looked at this really quick. This is definitely beginner friendly. I feel that it says confident beginner, but they really walk you through every single thing. And it was nice to hear that they wrote this pattern with oversized half square triangles and things so you can trim down. I really like that way of doing a block of the month. I don't like it when it's just, you have to be absolutely perfect, and then if you mess it up, and you know, then you're kind of stuck. So I read that in the instructions and I really appreciated that. So this is the first block that we're doing, and it's so cute. And we have to make 8 of them, and they're 6.5 inches unfinished. So they're going to be some little itty bitty pieces, but look at that red right in the center. That's going to be gorgeous. So I'm going to go ahead and prep all my fabrics because I like to best press my fabrics. It does say in the instructions not to pre-wash. It'll probably shrink it to the point where you won't have enough fabric, because you guys know if you pre-wash that things do fray and you lose some fabric. So it says not to pre-wash, but I am going to best press. I'm going to iron everything and I'm going to cut everything, and then I'll come back and I will sew this block with you guys. I'm really excited. So stay tuned and I'll be back. So before we get started sewing, I wanted to show you all of my cuts. I did cut out the little letters that they gave us. So here's the A, the red, the B, C, and I have my D, E, and F fabrics. So I like that they assigned a letter to each cut. Some block of the months that I've seen, they design they have a letter for all of the same fabric. And so that can get a little confusing. So it's nice that they have that. So they also did, and I wanted to mention this, to save all your scraps from each month, and we might need them in another month. Well, A had nothing significant left over. It was just a tiny little strip, and I was like, I can't even imagine using that because there wasn't enough to do anything with. So I want to share with you everything else that I had left though. And this is what I had left of this fabric. This is what I had left of the mint. I had this left of the green polka dot, and the most I had left was the green star, the lighter green here. So I'm going to put all these in the bag that this all came in, and I'm going to save this for the future. The only one that really though I could see using a whole lot more cuts is this one, or maybe some of these. Like I had some left over from this cut that maybe if we have some squares of the same cut. These are pretty small scraps, and normally this size I wouldn't even keep for myself because I'm not a scrap quilter. We'll see what we need these for, but I'm going to put these aside, and then I'll grab the first pieces that we need, which will be A, B, and C. So the strips is what we're going to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and move this and we'll get started sewing. Okay, so we're back here with our fabric ready to go, and we're going to sew. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew 2 sets of these strips. So we're going to have the aqua on either side of the green, and we're going to press. The pressing instructions are in the directions, but we're going to press towards the green in all these strip sets. So there's going to be 2 sets of these, and then to save a little time I already sewed up one, but there's going to be 1 set of this one where the green and the red's in the middle, and you're going to press out towards the green. So eventually we're going to cut these up into different sections, and these are all going to go together to make the center 9 patch. And so if we press this green out and if we press in towards this green, all these pieces will nest together really nicely. So you make sure you want to follow those pressing instructions. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay this strip on top. Now I cut these, I think it said to cut them 14 inches long. I just kept them whatever the width of the fabric was. And I think they were a little bit bigger than 14, but I figured that way it'd give me a little extra room just in case, you know, if you cut it exactly at 14 and make a mistake. Sometimes I make cutting mistakes. It gave me a little extra room just in case. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and sew this together. And for this set, it is the aqua, green, aqua, the green's in the middle, but for the red set, the green is on the outside. And you want to try to make sure that 1/4 inch is as close as possible. After you put these strips together, and press them. Your strip set should be 3.5 inches wide. If for some reason it is not 3.5 inches and it's too small, unfortunately at that point you're going to have to pull out your ripper and take it apart. But if they happen to come out a little bit too big, if it's just a little bit, you can trim it down. But that's only if all of them are a little bit too big, if they're all the same size. So try to be as precise as possible with your 1/4 inch. If you have a 1/4 inch foot, now would be a good time to use it. I don't use a 1/4 inch foot, but I do use seam guide tape, which has the 1/4 inch marking on the tape. And that's right here on my machine, and I feel like that gives me the most accurate 1/4 inch. So whichever way you find the most accurate for you. And so I'm just finger pressing. I like to finger press before I actually press with the iron. Make that fabric go which way I want it to. So I finger press that. So now I'm going to grab my iron and I'm going to press this towards that green in the middle. Grab that. And I'm going to grab my Acorn pen. This is the Acorn Easy Press pen with the Acorn Precision Solution. It's basically a starch alternative, concentrated starch alternative, and you put it on your seams and then you give them a press, and it really helps to make your blocks nice and flat and precise. You're not required to use this. That's what I do. I thought I'd tell you though, because I get those questions every time I sew something, what it is exactly that I'm using. I love how things come out with that pressing pen. The seams are coming out nice and flat. Now after you get all 3 of these strips made, so 2 of this color again and 1 of the red and green, we're going to cut these down into 1.5 by 3.5 inch segments, and you need 16 of this color and then 8 of the red green. All right, so that's nice and pressed. Now the question is, did I sew it correctly? Do I have the right width? So I'm going to get my ruler here and we're going to see. Yep, looks pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to start on the end and I'm going to make a clean cut. And it's going to look a little backwards because I'm going to cut it off this side. And I'm going to get rid of that little scrap. And then I'm going to go ahead and start cutting 1.5 inch segments all the way down until I have 8. So you can get 8 out of each strip. And actually, if you left your strips longer like I did, I think you can probably get 9. But at least try to get 8 out of each strip. Two. 5. 6. 7. And 8. All right. I have 8, and I already cut my other strip and got 8. So there's my 16. And now I'm going to grab my red and green one and do the same thing. And then I will come back and we'll sew the next part. Okay, so the next step after you've cut all these apart into your 3.5 by 1.5 inch segments is you're going to sew 3 sets together. So 2 of the aqua and green and 1 of the red and green. And it's going to make a 9 patch, something like this. So we're going to use 1/4 inch seams and we're going to sew that together. So let's do that now. And because we pressed those in opposite directions, they should nest up really nicely, those greens. And then we're going to press these guys out according to the picture. No, I'm just going to make sure. I'm not a pinner. If you guys want to pin, you can. So I'm just going to make sure that that's lined up. And we're going to open that up, and I'm going to finger press it for now. We'll go back and use the iron on these, but finger press it that way, and then I'm going to do the other side. Now, what I would say, since we have 8 of these blocks to make, we're just doing 1 together, I would chain piece all of the rest, or all of them maybe even. It would go a lot faster if you did all of one side, flipped them apart, and then did all of the other side. But that's totally up to you. What I generally do is I like to make 1 block so I can just see how it's made, and then I'll chain piece the rest. So that seems to work best for me. So there's our 9 patch. That's going to be the center of this block. So I'm going to give this a press. And I believe, like I said, the instructions said to press it out away from the center, which makes sense because it would get really bulky in the center there. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Really like these fabrics. They're very pretty. They're kind of in the middle between traditional and modern. Just kind of neat. Like the green and the red is very traditional colors, and then the aqua's not so traditional. Alright, so once you have your center done, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to set your centers aside. So let's do that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our flying geese. So we're doing the flying geese the traditional way, where you sew 1 square on top of your rectangle. We're going to sew corner to corner. Let's do that side. And you need to make 4 of these per block, or 32 altogether for all of these blocks. And then for speed purposes on camera, I'm just going to cut this about 1/4 inch away. Feel free to rotary cut them or scissor cut them, whichever makes you more comfortable. And I'm going to press this out away from the rectangle. Now this is the traditional way of making flying geese. There are lots of ways to make flying geese, but I believe they picked this way because they considered this a sort of beginner-friendly quilt. And some of the other ways are a little bit more complicated, although they might be a little faster because you can make 2 at a time or 4 at a time. But this is the most beginner-friendly way, so that makes sense. So now we're going to sew this one corner to corner as well. And you can mark these if you want with a line and sew on the line. Or if you have seam guide tape or you just want to eyeball it. They are small pieces, so I think you could just eyeball it, which is between the seam guide tape and eyeballing is kind of what I did. And then we're going to press this one. And then, like I said, you're going to make 4 of these per block. Give this guy a press. Perfect. And these have nothing to trim. You just leave them like they are. And let me grab all of them here. So here's your center. We're going to add 1 flying geese to each side of this 9 patch. I already made my other flying geese. And then to the other 2 flying geese, we are going to add these corner squares. And I already made the bottom one so you guys can see. So I'm going to sew this together first, and then sew these onto here, and then we can put our rows together. Now I'm going to finger press this out, which means the center, when I put this together, I'm going to press those in, and these I pressed out. I'm going to let that sit. I'm going to do the center, and then we will press those with the iron both at the same time. Now, when I sew a flying geese to another unit, I like to lay my flying geese unit on top, and where your threads cross here, you want to stay either right on that cross or one thread to the right of it, so that way you don't cut off your points on your star legs. So I kind of go slow over that part just to make sure I haven't cut off my star leg. And I kept my point, which is good. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And again, when you get to this point, you can chain piece all of these, or you can make one block and then chain piece the rest, or you can do it block by block, whichever way you like best. All right, I've already pressed this one, so I just need to press these two. Give that some juice. I like to call this magic juice because it magically makes your blocks nice and flat. All right. So I'm going to press these ones in, which kind of works best with flying geese because flying geese do tend to get a little bit bulky by the point. So if you can press away from the point, you can't always do that depending on what the pattern calls for. And then we'll press this out. I press the other one out, and they'll all nest up really nicely when we put this block together. These are the cutest little blocks. All right, so now all we have to do is sew our rows together and our star will be finished. I'm just feeling here where they're nesting. Again, you can pin if you like. I'm not much of a pinner, like I said. It's not that I can't pin or don't like to pin. Well, I don't love to pin because I don't like to bleed on my fabric. And for some reason, when I pin, am very good at sticking myself. Okay, now I believe the instructions didn't say which way to press these, but I think it makes most sense to press the top and the bottom out. I'm going to go add this one on this side, and then we'll give the whole block a press. I'm just nesting up my seams here. Again with that flying geese on top so you can see what you're sewing through so you don't lose your points. And then we're going to press this up and out and the bottom down, and then our block will be finished. All right, let's get this block pressed and then we are done. And we made one together, but you're going to have to make 7 more. So 8 of these guys all together. All right, that's what our block looks like, and it should be 6.5 inches unfinished. All right, well, through the magic of TV, thank you, Russ of Quilt Meets World, for that phrase. Here are all 8 of my lovely stars completed. So that is month 1 of the block of the month. And again, if you want to see it, this is what the quilt is going to look like at the end. And I put all my scraps and everything that came with month 1 back in the packet it came in. So we are finished. I will see you again at the end of July for block 2. Can't wait. This was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing what fabric comes next. So see you soon. Keep stitching and have fun. Bye.